Rebuilding yourself is not a decision you make with your mouth. It is a choice you make with your spirit. It is not loud. It does not scream. Rebuilding is quiet. It is a daily return to the fire within, a silent agreement with yourself that you are no longer willing to live unconsciously, broken, distracted, or defeated. In 2025, the world will not stop for you. The seasons will not pause. Time will not bend. So, the only question that remains is, will you rise? Not as who you once were, but as who you were always meant to be. In the teachings of Shaolin, we do not seek to conquer the world. We seek to master the self, because it is the self that stands in the way of growth. The self that clings to past versions, old identities, and comfortable suffering. If you are to rebuild in 2025, you must begin by asking, what must I let go of? The pain, the anger, the illusion of control. True transformation begins not by addition, but by subtraction. What can you remove today that does not belong to your future? You see, in rebuilding, the foundation is not motivation. It is discipline. Motivation comes and goes. It is a visitor. Discipline is a resident. It stays when the mind says quit, when your body feels tired, when your heart is uncertain. So, I ask you, what rituals will you create for yourself this year that anchor you when storms come? Because storms will come. Life will test the seriousness of your decision. It will challenge your will. You will be tempted to go back to the old. But remember this, you cannot rebuild on a foundation you refuse to clear. You must burn the bridge to your comfort zone. There is no growth in chaos without awareness. There is no rebuilding without destruction. So let the old fall away. Let the ego suffer. Let the weak version of you die so something stronger can emerge. You must suffer, not in the way the world defines suffering, but in the way that warriors understand it. Suffering through self-mastery, through repetition, through rising at dawn when the bed begs you to stay, through silence when your anger wants to shout, through humility when your pride wants to win. In 2025, become the architect of your own mind. Realize that the external world is only a reflection of your internal order. You want peace? Then remove internal conflict. You want clarity? Then stop feeding distractions. You want strength? Then test your limits. Train your body, discipline your thoughts, observe your emotions. You are not here to live passively. You are here to engage with life, to sharpen your blade through resistance, through discipline, through purpose. Purpose is the compass of a powerful human being. Without it, you are lost. You will drift. You will wander. So ask yourself now, what is my purpose in this year? If you cannot answer, sit in stillness until you find it. Your purpose is not pleasure. It is not escape. It is what you would die for and what you must live for. Build your days around this purpose. Let every morning be a return to it, and let every evening be an assessment. Did I honor it today? Rebuilding does not happen in grand moments. It happens in small decisions. When you choose water instead of sugar, silence instead of gossip, practice instead of scrolling, reading instead of complaining, action instead of excuse. These are small acts, but together they create a new life, a new you. So stop waiting for a miracle. Be the miracle. Wake up and meet yourself every day. Face yourself and do not lie. You know what is holding you back. You know what needs to change. You don't need more information. You need more integrity. So let us speak clearly. If you are tired of who you were, then stop feeding that version. Every time you scroll for hours, sleep without purpose, speak without mindfulness, or waste energy on things that do not matter, you are rebuilding the past. But when you rise with intention, speak with precision, move with awareness, you build the future. In Shaolin, we say, the external strength comes from internal stillness. So become still, meditate, reflect, learn to hear your breath before you hear the world. When you master stillness, chaos cannot touch you. People cannot manipulate you. Situations cannot shake you. This is how you reclaim power, not by force, but by presence. You want peace in 2025, then become disciplined. You want strength, then embrace discomfort. You want clarity, then remove noise. This is the path. It is not easy, but it is true. And the truth does not care if you are tired. The truth does not wait for convenience. The truth demands commitment. So I ask you one final time, who will you be in 2025? The person who complains or the one who creates? The one who reacts or the one who responds? The one who waits or the one who builds? Do not waste this year. Do not sleep through your own transformation. Stand up, straight spine, calm breath, focused eyes. The rebuilding begins now. True transformation is not about adding more goals, books, or habits. It begins by letting go of distractions, toxic patterns, limiting beliefs, and versions of yourself that no longer serve you. Like a sculptor who chips away to reveal the masterpiece, you must strip down your life to its essentials before rebuilding something greater. Motivation is fleeting and unreliable. Discipline is the structure that holds your growth together. Rebuilding yourself requires daily rituals, repeated actions, and mental resilience, even when you don't feel like it. It's not about doing what feels good now. It's about doing what builds strength for the future. Without purpose, effort becomes noise. In 2025, you must center your energy around a clear and meaningful purpose. This is not a goal, it is your reason, the thing that gives your suffering meaning and your actions direction. Align your habits, mindset, and discipline with that purpose every single day. You cannot rebuild your outer world if your inner world is in chaos. Stillness, through meditation, reflection, and intentional silence, is what sharpens awareness and brings clarity. When you master your breath, your thoughts, and your presence, no external storm can shake you. Rebuilding yourself does not start with adding more. It begins with letting go. In a world that constantly tells you to do more, be more, achieve more, the true path of inner transformation starts with subtraction. This is the principle most people overlook. They chase new goals without releasing the weight of the old self. They carry anger into discipline, confusion into purpose, ego into humility, and wonder why they can't change. But rebuilding is not about stacking layers of identity on top of a broken foundation. It is about digging deep, stripping down everything that no longer serves you, and creating space for something real to emerge. You cannot build a temple on top of rubble. You must first clear the debris. That means you need to be brutally honest with yourself. What have you been holding on to that belongs to the past, not your future? Is it an old relationship that haunts your present? A story of failure you keep replaying? A belief that you're not good enough, smart enough, or worthy enough? These are weights. They do not help you climb. They keep you crawling. And until you decide to release them, they will quietly sabotage every effort you make to grow. The most powerful version of you is buried under everything you refuse to let go of. Letting go is not weakness. It is not avoidance. It is courage. It is the realization that not everything deserves a place in your life just because it once had one. Growth requires you to shed layers. Snakes do not keep their old skin. Trees drop dead leaves. You too must learn to release what's expired, even if it's familiar, especially if it's familiar. Because what is familiar is often what's killing your progress. We tend to believe that more equals better. More habits, more goals, more knowledge. But the truth is, more without clarity leads to chaos, and chaos is the enemy of transformation. You need space. Space in your mind, space in your heart, space in your life. And to create that space, you must subtract before you add. You must identify what drains your energy, what steals your focus, what clouds your judgment, and eliminate it. This is why most people fail to rebuild. They're afraid of the silence that comes after subtraction. They're afraid of who they'll be when the noise is gone. They mistake emptiness for loss, but it's actually the beginning of clarity. When you let go of what doesn't belong, you finally hear what does. You create room for truth, purpose, direction. You stop being distracted by the wrong things and start being pulled by the right ones. Think about your daily life right now. How much of it is noise? How many things do you do out of habit, not intention? How many people do you engage with who don't elevate you? How many thoughts do you entertain that disempower you? Rebuilding yourself in 2025 requires you to become the gatekeeper of your energy. You must filter your world. Not everything deserves your time. Not everything deserves your attention. Not everything deserves access to you. This also applies to how you see yourself. Letting go isn't just about cutting off distractions or toxic relationships. It's about releasing identities that no longer fit who you're becoming. Maybe you've always seen yourself as the underdog, the one who never quite made it, the one who had potential but never fulfilled it. Those are just stories. They are not your truth, they are your history. But history is not destiny. You must be willing to burn the script and write a new one based not on where you've been, but on where you're going. The process of subtraction can feel painful. You may feel like you're losing pieces of yourself, but you're not losing. You're refining. You're distilling your essence. You're uncovering the strength and clarity that's been buried under layers of distraction and self-doubt. This is why monks, warriors, and sages all practice simplicity. They understand that the less you carry, the further you can go. In your case, it may mean deleting the apps that waste your time. It may mean stepping away from people who always bring drama. It may mean leaving behind the fear that says, "What if I fail?" and replacing it with the truth, "What if I never try?" These are small acts of subtraction, but they have massive impact. Each one removes resistance. Each one returns your power. Each one brings you closer to the version of you that's been waiting to emerge. Rebuilding yourself is not something that happens overnight. It's a daily process of unlearning and releasing. It's about choosing discomfort over complacency, awareness over autopilot, growth over familiarity. And it starts with a decision not to fix yourself, but to free yourself, because you're not broken, you're buried. And every act of letting go is a shovel in your hand. As you move through this year, carry this principle in your heart. Do not add more to your life until you've removed what no longer aligns with who you're becoming. Don't chase complexity, seek clarity. Don't rush to do. Slow down and undo. That is how true rebuilding begins. Not with noise, not with pressure, but with presence, with quiet strength, with the courage to say, this no longer serves me, I release it. And from that space of emptiness, something powerful is born. A new focus, a new rhythm, a new standard. You begin to feel lighter, sharper, more in control, and slowly, step by step, the architecture of the new you begins to rise, not built on the wreckage of the past, but on the clarity of intention, the discipline of action, and the power of release. This is not the year of doing more. This is the year of doing less, but doing it better. Fewer distractions, fewer excuses, fewer false identities. What remains will be real, what stays will be strong, and what grows from that place will be unstoppable. Motivation is fleeting. It comes in waves, often influenced by mood, weather, people, or even a good video. But discipline is steady. It is quiet, dependable, and present, even when the fire of motivation has long burned out. If you want to rebuild yourself in 2025, you cannot wait to feel inspired. You must train yourself to act even when you feel nothing, because that is where transformation lives. Not in the high moments of emotion, but in the cold hours of repetition. The difference between those who change and those who stay the same is not talent or luck. It is discipline, the ability to do what must be done regardless of how you feel. Many people set goals every year with excitement. They say this year will be different. They write to-do lists, set alarms, buy planners, maybe even join a gym or pick up books. But when the novelty fades, so do their efforts. Why? Because they were relying on motivation to carry them. They expected change to feel good. But the truth is, the path to rebuilding doesn't feel good in the beginning. It feels hard. It feels uncomfortable. It feels unnatural because you are interrupting years, sometimes decades of patterns. And those patterns resist change. They push back. They whisper lies like, just skip today, or you can start again tomorrow. Discipline is the part of you that stands up to those whispers and says, we do this anyway. Rebuilding yourself in 2025 means understanding this truth deeply. You do not rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your systems, and your systems are built on discipline. It's not about having big dreams. It's about building strong routines. Anyone can dream big when they're excited. Few can wake up at 5 a.m. when they're exhausted, but that's the difference. That's the edge. Discipline shows up when motivation leaves. It shows up when no one is watching, when there is no applause, no recognition, just you, your breath, and the choice to follow through. Let this be the year you stop depending on how you feel. Feelings are important, yes, but they are not always truthful. They are not always helpful. And if you let your feelings run your actions, your progress will always be inconsistent. Discipline says, I respect my feelings, but I don't obey them blindly. I follow my commitment. I follow my purpose, even when I'm tired, even when I'm overwhelmed, even when I doubt myself. Because discipline is not about perfection. It's about consistency. It's about momentum. It's about becoming the kind of person who does the work, regardless of conditions. Think of discipline as a form of self-respect. When you tell yourself you will do something and you follow through, you build trust with yourself. Each disciplined act is a message to your subconscious that says, I am someone who can be counted on. And this trust becomes the foundation of confidence. Not fake confidence that relies on compliments or achievements, but deep, unshakable confidence that comes from knowing you have your own back. That no matter what life throws at you, you will not break your word to yourself. This is especially important in the moments when no one else is watching, because discipline is most pure when it is practiced in silence, when there is no reward, no praise, just the integrity of doing what is right. Waking up when you said you would, eating what nourishes you, not what comforts you, moving your body even when it's easier to be still, studying when your mind wants distraction, meditating when your thoughts are loud. These small acts, done consistently, will shape you into someone unrecognizable to your past self. And let's be honest, there will be days when everything in you resists. Days when your body is tired, your mind is foggy, and your emotions feel heavy. These are not the days to break your discipline. These are the days that build your character. These are the days that separate the serious from the casual. Anyone can be disciplined when it's easy, but it's in the struggle that the true warrior is born. Not through force, but through commitment. Through remembering that you are not your feelings, you are your choices. Discipline is not punishment. It's power. It's the power to direct your life instead of being tossed around by impulse. It's the power to say no to what feels good now so you can say yes to what feels great later. It's the power to sacrifice comfort for growth. And every time you choose discipline over distraction, you reclaim more of that power. You become less reactive, less dependent, more focused, more alive. When you look at people who have rebuilt themselves, who have changed their bodies, their minds, their careers, their lives. It's not because they were constantly inspired. It's because they made discipline their default. They got up when they didn't want to. They trained when no one believed in them. They practiced when no one clapped. And slowly, those quiet, invisible choices added up. That's what will happen for you too, if you stay the course. If you make discipline your friend, your guide, your lifestyle. So how do you start? You start small. Discipline isn't about overhauling your life overnight. It's about choosing one thing and doing it well. Wake up at the same time every day. Set a time to move your body. Decide what you will no longer tolerate. Stick to one new habit until it becomes a part of you. And once it's part of you, build another. This is how discipline grows, not in big dramatic gestures, but in quiet, consistent effort, like water carving stone. Not with force, but with patience. Let 2025 be the year you stop negotiating with your excuses, the year you stop quitting because it's hard. Stop starting over every Monday. Stop making promises you don't keep. Decide now, who do you want to become? What does that version of you do every day? Start doing that, one action at a time, even if it's small, especially if it's small, because small disciplines practiced daily become unbreakable habits, and those habits shape your destiny. Discipline is the ultimate form of freedom. It may feel rigid at first, but it liberates you from the chaos of inconsistency, the anxiety of procrastination, and the regret of wasted time. It gives you structure, it gives you peace, and it gives you results. Real, lasting, meaningful results. So build it, protect it, honor it. Because in a world of noise and distraction, a disciplined mind is a rare and unstoppable force. This is your moment to stop chasing moods and start honoring commitments, to stop hoping for change and start acting with purpose. Rebuilding in 2025 begins not with excitement, but with resolve. Not with motivation, but with discipline. Choose it every day, and the future you seek will become the present you live. Rebuilding yourself in 2025 is not just about habits or discipline. It's about knowing why you do it. Because without a deep and personal purpose, all your effort becomes scattered. You can wake up early, train your body, cut out distractions. But if you lack direction, you'll still feel lost. You'll still feel empty. Purpose is not a luxury. It's the foundation. It is the internal compass that gives meaning to the struggle and direction to your energy. Without it, you'll climb mountains that don't matter. You'll build routines that feel hollow. You'll achieve goals that don't satisfy. But when you move with purpose, even pain becomes meaningful. Even setbacks become fuel. Even silence becomes sacred. Purpose is not something you find in books or borrow from others. It's something you uncover by looking within. It is not a job title, not a role, not even a goal. It is the essence of why you wake up, why you push forward, why you refuse to stay broken. It's what anchors you when life shakes you. When the world gets noisy and the pressure mounts, it is your purpose that brings you back to center. It says, this is why I keep going. And you need that because the journey of rebuilding is not smooth. It is not instant. It will test your patience, your emotions, your beliefs. And in those testing moments, only a strong purpose will keep you grounded. When you have a clear purpose, your actions are no longer random. You stop being reactive and start being intentional. Every choice becomes filtered through that deeper why. What you eat, who you spend time with, how you speak, what you consume, what you tolerate. All of it begins to align because now you're not just living, you're moving towards something. You're building something that matters. You're not chasing trends or comparing yourself to others. You're honoring the direction that's true for you. But most people never slow down long enough to ask the real questions. They move from one goal to the next, one job to another, one version of themselves to the next, without ever pausing to ask, why am I really doing this? What am I building? What am I willing to suffer for? Because that's the truth. Purpose is not about passion or pleasure. It's about what you're willing to struggle for, what you're willing to sacrifice for, what you will not quit on, even when the rewards are delayed. And when you answer that honestly, you begin to shift. Your energy becomes more focused. Your time becomes more valuable. Your voice becomes more certain because you're no longer living by default. You're living by design. You see, when people lack purpose, they get addicted to distractions. They seek pleasure over progress, comfort over growth. They keep themselves busy to avoid the discomfort of stillness where the real questions live. But if you want to rebuild yourself this year, you have to face that stillness. You have to sit with yourself, strip away the noise and listen. What lights you up? What breaks your heart? What problem do you want to solve in this world? Even in a small way, that's where your purpose is hiding. Not in something grand or dramatic, but in something real, something that makes you feel alive. And once you've touched it, even once, it becomes your fuel. When you wake up tired, purpose whispers, this is bigger than you. When you face setbacks, it reminds you, you're still on the path. When others doubt you, it affirms, you don't need their approval. You have your reason. That kind of clarity cannot be shaken. It becomes the fire beneath your discipline, the root beneath your confidence, the invisible thread that ties all your effort together. Purpose also brings peace, not because life becomes easier, but because you stop needing to prove yourself. You stop jumping from thing to thing, hoping to find fulfillment in achievement alone. When you're connected to purpose, progress becomes enough. Process becomes sacred. You're no longer obsessed with results. You're devoted to the mission. And that devotion gives you strength, a strength that doesn't fade when you lose, a strength that doesn't vanish when you're misunderstood, a strength that remains when motivation is nowhere to be found. It also sharpens your decisions. You start to say no more easily. You stop apologizing for needing space. You stop explaining yourself to people who don't understand, because you're no longer living by their map. You're following your own. And that kind of inner alignment is rare, but it is powerful. People feel it when they're around you. They sense your clarity, your conviction, your peace, not because you're loud, but because you're certain. You know what you're about, and that creates gravity. Purpose doesn't mean everything will be perfect. In fact, the pursuit of purpose will often expose your weaknesses. It will show you where you're still undisciplined, where you still make excuses, where you still hold yourself back. But that's the point. Purpose holds up a mirror and asks you to rise, to become someone worthy of the mission. And that journey, that rising, is where the real transformation happens. So how do you begin? You start by asking, what matters more to me than comfort? What would I still do even if I failed at it? What makes me come alive when I talk about it, think about it, serve through it? Your answers don't need to be perfect, but they must be honest, because honesty is what clears the fog. Purpose is not something you invent, it's something you remember, something your soul already knows. You just need to slow down, listen, and give it space to speak. This year, let purpose lead your rebuilding. Let it shape your habits, your standards, your environment. Let it filter what you allow and what you refuse. Let it give you something to suffer for, something to show up for, something to become for. Because when your life is led by purpose, you don't need constant motivation. You become your own reason, and that kind of power cannot be stopped. Not by delay, not by failure, not even by fear. It only grows stronger because it is rooted in truth. You're not here to exist. You're here to contribute. You're here to build something with your breath, your hands, your mind. And that building starts the moment you decide, I will no longer live aimlessly. I will live with purpose, on purpose for a purpose. Not someday, this year. Not when it's easy now. Because once you know why, you'll always know how. In the journey of rebuilding yourself in 2025, there comes a moment when you must release the past. Not gently, not hesitantly, but with a deep and final decision. Because as long as you are holding on to the weight of what broke you, you cannot rise. You cannot move forward while still looking back. The pain, the shame, the regrets, the stories, the failures, they may have shaped who you were, but they do not get to dictate who you become. And if you want to truly rebuild, you must learn to let go. Not because what happened didn't matter, but because your future matters more. You see, many people try to create a new version of themselves while still clinging to the old one. They try to step forward while dragging the baggage of betrayal, of loss, of guilt, of fear. But healing does not happen like that. Rebuilding does not happen like that. You cannot carry the ruins into the new structure. You have to tear them down, grieve them, and leave them behind. There is wisdom in knowing when something has served its purpose. There is strength in closing a door fully, even when you loved what was behind it. And there is freedom in choosing to no longer be defined by what hurt you. Letting go is not forgetting. It is not pretending it never happened. It is not erasing chapters of your story. It is looking at those moments, however painful, however humiliating, however dark, and saying, I no longer need this to be my identity. You reclaim your narrative. You stop being the victim and become the author. And yes, that takes courage, because some people have worn their pain for so long, it feels like part of their skin. Some people have clung to resentment, bitterness, and blame because it gave them something to hold onto when everything else felt uncertain. But that grip is costing them peace. That story is costing them their future. This year, you must decide, are you more loyal to your pain or to your potential? Because you can't serve both. You cannot rebuild while still obsessing over what broke. You cannot rise while still shrinking to the memories of your failures. There has to be a clean break, a moment where you look at your reflection and say, I am not who I was, and I don't need to carry who I was into who I'm becoming. That is not betrayal. That is transformation. And yes, it may feel uncomfortable. Letting go of pain means losing the excuses that came with it. Letting go of resentment means accepting that you can no longer blame them. Letting go of fear means risking again, trying again, hoping again. But the discomfort of letting go is nothing compared to the suffering of staying stuck in the same cycles, the same doubts, the same self-sabotage. You know those patterns. You know what they cost you. And if you're honest, you know they were never meant to be permanent. They were meant to be teachers, not jailers. Letting go also means letting go of who people think you are. Some people have only known the version of you who tolerated too much, played small, kept quiet, gave in. And when you rebuild, when you rise, when you choose peace over chaos, clarity over confusion, growth over comfort, they won't recognize you. They may question you. They may even try to pull you back, but you cannot rebuild for them. You must rebuild for you. And if it means losing people who only loved your wounded self, then so be it. That is not loss. That is alignment. To rebuild yourself in 2025, you must create space for new energy. And space only comes when you release what no longer belongs. That could be relationships, it could be habits, it could be thoughts, it could be a version of yourself that you've outgrown. There is no shame in outgrowing. It means you're evolving. It means you're no longer tolerating chaos as your norm. It means you're ready for a life that reflects your healing, not your trauma. And that shift, that internal shift, starts when you stop trying to fix what's already broken beyond repair and start focusing on what you can build fresh from the ground up. Think of a forest after a wildfire. The destruction is undeniable, but in that burned earth, something beautiful happens. New life emerges. The ground, once scorched, becomes fertile. Seeds, long buried, begin to grow, not because the fire didn't hurt, but because life refused to end there. That is you. The fire of your past may have burned through everything you knew, but that does not mean the end. It means it's time to plant new seeds. Seeds of discipline, of purpose, of truth, of peace. But they only grow if you clear the ashes. Sometimes the hardest thing to let go of is not the pain, but the version of you who endured it. That person who survived so much, who kept going despite everything, who held it all together even when it was breaking inside. Honor that version. Thank them. But also let them rest. You don't need to live in survival mode anymore. You're allowed to rebuild with gentleness now, with intention, with joy. That's what letting go makes room for. Not just change, but joy. Letting go also requires forgiveness. Not always for others, but for yourself. For the times you stayed too long, for the mistakes you made, for the things you didn't know until now. Carrying shame will not make you better. It will only make you heavier. You are allowed to release it. To say, I did the best I could with what I had, and now I choose better. That choice, that forgiveness, is how the rebuilding truly begins. Not from perfection, but from grace. So in this year of rebuilding, make a sacred vow to yourself. I will no longer carry what was never mine to carry. I will no longer rehearse the pain. I will no longer let my past write the script for my future. I will let go, not because it was easy, but because I deserve peace. I deserve a new chapter. I deserve to move forward without chains on my ankles. And as you do this, you will feel something shift. Your mind will clear. Your body will feel lighter. Your days will feel more intentional, because the energy that once went into holding on now flows into creation, into presence, into becoming. And you'll realize the past was never meant to define you. It was meant to refine you. And now, stripped of what no longer serves you, you are free. Free to rebuild, not from pain, but from power. Not from wounds, but from wisdom. Not from fear, but from truth. This is the moment you stop being bound by your history and start being guided by your vision. Let go and watch yourself rise.